everyone. Welcome to our very first episode of Mad Mondays, where we are going to be interviewing people in STEM fields. My name is Marilyn Palmer, and with me I have Miss Willie Aiken. So, Miss Willie Aiken, can you tell everyone a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and why you chose to be in STEM?
Okay, the first thing when you ask me a little bit about myself, I had to really think, who am I? And when I begin to think, who am I have to always say, I'm a born again Christian. I have to tell about my faith,
Right.
because that's what got me through the hard times. And I, so far as where I'm from Rock Hill, South Carolina. I've been here all my life, and I've been married for about 35 years. Have one daughter and one son-in-law. No grands, still waiting on one. But that's whenever they ready, they'll have one. But that's what I was waiting on. And I have over 35 years in the chemical field. And also I've been a teacher and a teacher for the Lord. So I've been like a women's Bible study teacher. I've been there for over, I guess, about 20 years. About 20 years I've been teaching women's Bible study. And me and my husband, I guess it's been less than 10 years, I think. We started an outreach ministry called Turnaround Ministry, that we go out and try to convince and convert men to Christ, because he tells us to go out and compel men to Christ. So that's our goal, to do that. And far as why I went into the STEM program, I got into STEM is because my mother. And my mother, she was the one, she thought about me being a pathologist, that would be a good way to make a living, because she said it's a good field. So what the plans were, I was going to come here and get a degree in biology and then transfer to a medical school and get a degree in pathologist. But after I graduated, I decided to stay here, and I got married and everything, so I decided to stay here and at Winthrop University and got my degree here. And after that, I pursued a career in industry.
Okay, so can you tell everyone a little bit, what is industry, and like, what did you do in industry?
Okay. Well, in industry, I worked at, I guess, various companies. I had like I guess one place was I did like physical analysis in a place, it was called J.P. Stevenson at the time. And I did like physical testing. But the bulk of my experience was at Celanese, and they produce cellulose acetate. Cellulose acetate is used as to make different type plastics. Eventually, the filament would go into clothing and everything. So I worked in the main chemical lab, and while I was there, I was able to pursue various positions in the chemistry field. In the main chemical lab, I was a lead analyst, or I also became a part of the lab management team at one point, and I began to help implemented a program called ISO 9000. So I became the quality coordinator for the lab, and it was a thing that you had. If a company became ISO certified, they were able to sell more product. So I did that. So I did various jobs there in training. I was a trainer. I even worked through HR as a plant trainer for the whole facility out there. And it was the largest company of that magnitude, cellulose acetate, at the time when I worked there. So it was a very large company. So, and I really enjoyed working there. And I not only worked at Celanese acetate, but I worked at a very, a big chemical company. It was worldwide. The company itself was small, but it was worldwide. It was a large chemical company. And they made various types of chemicals used in various things like sealant for refrigerators, TVs, and paint. The paint derivative that was added into the paint to keep the paint from falling off.
So
did various types of jobs there. And then at both the places, both facilities, I had to use equipment. And the type of equipment that I used was instrumentation. There was like LCs, GCs, which are gas chromatographs, liquid chromatographs. Did various types spectrophotometers, AA, also the IR. So just various type of equipment, which is very important, that you can learn here at Winthrop, in research. So those type of equipments I used at both plants. I had opportunities to do method development, research. I had a variety of things that I done when I was in industry.
Oh wow, That sounds amazing. All right, so being that you are an African American woman, do you feel that you face any types of that you've been discriminated against in the STEM field?
Yes. Well, at one point when I worked at Celanese, when I was in that position, I actually started out in customer service because, as you know, jobs began to decline in that field, in that area for that particular company. So what I did, I was in that field, and they transferred me to the Research and Development Center, but I had to work in customer service. So I still could use some of the information that I had learned, you know, in the STEM field, but I stayed there, and then you would be in like sales. You have to tell about how the actual products were put together. All that kind of knowledge still was required in that position. So I stayed there for a while, but as soon as the job came open in the chemical lab or the laboratory, I took it was a specialist job that I took over, a technical specialist, the position. So I went into that position, and I worked there for, I guess, until they began to cut back again. They decided to take that facility and move it to Virginia, and I didn't really want to move to Virginia. But in the midst of that, a position came open back in the customer service area, same thing that I was doing. So I said, so even one of the PhD chemists had mentioned, say, oh, that's you right there, isn't it? Because he knew I had just came from that position. So I applied for the position, but yet they didn't give it to me. They gave it to a white male. And the white male, and I perceived that I was discriminated against because I had all this experience.
And
he
all
had
of the qualifications.
Right. And he had never worked in that field at all. So, but they gave it to him instead of me.
Instead of you.
So I felt discriminated against.
And so, okay, so I know, and this happens to a lot of people. And so, after a situation like that, how do you bounce back or feel like you come from, because I know it kind of feels hurtful in a sense, knowing that you have all the qualifications. So how do you continue to go on after going through something like that?
Well, see, that's where it go back. I told you I was a born again Christian. That my faith in God. So He would allow me to build myself up, because He's my source, not the job. Even though that was the job that I could have kept and stayed in this area, wouldn't have to move. He's my source. So when I work, and that's one tip I would like to share with you. When you work at any place, always do it unto the Lord, because man, you can't please man. Because today you might be on top of the world for him in what you're doing, but tomorrow you down. So always put your trust and faith in God. And so by me having that faith, I was able to deal with that, you know, and handle it in a professional manner.
Oh, wow. That is great. All right, and so for people who are looking to grow their career in STEM, and I know we have a lot of students who are just starting their career and they feel like it's hard, or they don't really know how to navigate into the STEM field. So what type of tips or advice would you give to those students?
Well, first off, a lot of times you have to, you know, of course, since I've been teaching Bible study, I know we should always seek God for the purpose and the role and direction we should go in. And if by you going that way, He's going to lead and guide you and direct you. But far as once you get into those positions, when you apply for one, when you do your cover letter, always look at your stated requirements for the job. And then when you do your cover letter, make your little 2 columns. On one side, list out those requirements for that job. And then on the other side, state them as you meet those, how you meet them. In other words, if they require a BS in or a degree in chemistry, well, you say, well, I got a BS in chemistry. Or if they might require you what kind of instrumentations you can use. You learn this in research, and you got X number of years doing this, or you're very familiar with this, you know, but you state how you meet those requirements. And another tip is that sometimes you have to go through temporary services, because that's really how I ended up at Celanese. I had to go through a temp service first, and then they was able to see my qualities, and I did a good job, and they hired me permanent. And sometimes you have to do volunteer or internships, whatever it takes to get your foot in the door. Once you get in there, always do the best you can. And we already discussed, do the best as you do it unto the Lord anyway. Because you know, a lot of times they say when the cat's away, the mouse will play. You don't ever want to do that, because you if you're doing it unto the Lord, a lot of times, that I found in my life, when I do it unto the Lord, that I'm gonna do my best, because that's who I'm representing. Other tips is just, like I say, sometimes just because you don't meet the certain qualifications that they say you got to have, don't let that be a hindrance. Always apply anyway. Because even the position that I'm in now, they wanted someone with a master's degree in chemistry, but I do not have. I have a BS degree, and I have 20 years experience though, so they kind of lumped that together, and I still got the job. I missed out on opportunities on jobs because they say you can't apply unless you've been here X number of years, and I didn't have it, so I didn't apply. But the person that did apply had less time than I did, and they got the job. So don't let things like that hinder you. If you think you are interested in it, apply for it. Also, always let your bosses know what you're interested in doing in the future. Sometimes they'll hear things and they may help you to move into those positions. Also, if they think you're satisfied, even though you're doing the best you can, they think you're satisfied in that position that you're in, they'll leave you there and won't promote you. So far as maneuvering in various jobs, you can, in the STEM position, degree, you can apply for all type jobs, not necessarily as a chemist. You could be into the environmental area. Just various areas that you can go in with that type degree. Like I was a quality coordinator at one time, which is a very good. I could take that experience and go to anywhere else. And because I actually became a lead auditor at that time. So and I was certified. So they sent me to school and I went there. See, and once you get in these places, a lot of times that's why I say always do the best you can. Then you will be the one that chosen to go to this trip or that trip or this training. So that's some tips I could share with you.
Well, thank you so much, Miss Aiken. I hope everyone enjoyed this, because I know I did. I love the tips, especially, of course, doing your best, not just for other people or for yourself, but unto the Lord. And also the cover letter, I never knew to just make it plain and make it simple, because I know the people get millions and millions of resumes, so they just want something quick. So thank you so much for that. So everybody, that was Miss Willie Aiken. I hope you enjoyed, and that concludes Mad Mondays. Have a nice day.